Hello everybody, welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today, in deck number 423, we're going to talk about God Eternal Bontu. Before we get into it though, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to Mr. David Lynch. He is a Patreon supporter of the show. Thank you so much, David. We do appreciate everybody, but if you would like to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/Cure for the Common Game and come on and join the fun. But let's talk about Bontu. Is it just me, or are all these gods better the second time around? I mean, really. It's got, of course, 5 mana, 5/6 menace. We would play that. I mean, just being real. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents and draw that many cards. Now, this is the color that we want to do that in, obviously. And then it has Tuck 3. So, where my mind went, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of times, EDH is a wonderful, wonderful site, and I use it quite a bit. Because there are times when I get, deck builder's block. It's like writer's block, but for a guy that does nothing but build decks. And I'll get, 2/3 of the way done with the deck, and I'll have 10, 15 cards left, and I'll, what am I missing? What am I missing? But with Bontu here, I'll be honest with you, I have not even looked at the page. Because my mind went, well, if when he comes into play, I'm sacking any number of other permanents, there's a couple things that need to happen. Number one, I need lots of trivial permanents to sack. Number two, I need a way to either bounce him back to my hand or something. But then I was like, you know what? We don't really have to bounce him back to our hand, because in 3 turns he's coming back anyway. Right? So, here's where I went. First, let's look at our mana. Of course, we have a Soul Ring. Couldn't do it without Bontu's Monument, because, especially here, cast a creature, each opponent loses 1 and gain the Charcoal Diamond. Dark Ritual, Leaden Mirror. Now, here again, the Leaden Mirror, late game, you don't really so much care about it. If you've got, 17 swamps, you can get rid of it. Bubbling Muck, the high tide for swamps, and then, of course, the Songs of the Damned. I really like Songs of the Damned in this specific deck because, let's face it, we're going to have creatures in the yard. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the creatures. It's actually not so much creatures as how I have them. I have this type of ability. What do they call this? The Aristocrat ability. Whenever it or another creature dies, target player loses 1 and you gain 1. So every time a creature dies, hey, there's a life change there in my favor. So I said, you know what? That's a thing. Vindictive Vampire, same thing. Deals 1 damage and you gain 1. Okay, I'm getting down with it. The Harvester of Souls, death trigger, draw a card. Mortician Beetle, kind of the same thing in this deck because Bontu says sacrifice. So whenever anybody sacks anything, it's going to get a little bigger. Zulaport Cutthroat, same thing, although it only applies to your stuff. Hey, okay. Butcher of Malakir. Yeah, I know Butcher is a way more expensive than the 2 enchantments, the Dictate and the good one, the cheap one. Drawing a blank. But anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. I don't know. Besides, this is what I had. Now, Pitiless Plunder is amazing. Yeah, you've probably never heard that before, right? Everybody loves their 4 mana 1/4s. But this way, when one of your creatures dies, you get another permanent that you can sack later on for mana or for Bontu. Midnight Reaper. Same thing. Except here, you just draw a card. And then lastly, of course, Liliana. Whenever just a creature you control dies, draw a card. Now that gets really, really handy with stuff like Hell's Caretaker. Because, yeah, right, you're just swapping them back and forth. I'm going to swap these 2 creatures, draw a card, do a couple damage, gain some life, maybe draw another card. Fun times, right? So then, my next category here is stuff that brings in permanents, like, Singir Autocrat. That's pretty decent. The Singir, the guy, Indrixar. Indrixar would be great here, but the only Indrixar I have is in his own deck, or gonna be in his own deck. I think he's in the general binder, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I've built him yet. But this is 4 mana for 4 permanents, which is potentially 4 mana for 4 cards. Right? Pawn of Ulamog. And this is you get another permanent for each time something dies. That's pretty sweet. Sifter of Skulls, same deal. Now, Endless Ranks of the Dead. Now, we don't have a whole lot of zombies. We're kind of, not tribal at all. But, hey, this can crank you out some zombies. Breeding Pit, this is the card number 1 that came to my mind when I read Bontu. This is how you know I'm an old Magic player. Is the Breeding Pit. I was like, I could just eat some thralls. Because maybe I cast Breeding Pit a long time ago. And, yeah. Tamio's Journal. Here again, you're just going to get a clue every turn. It can help you tutor. If you don't need the tutor, you've got, just straight up permanents. Or straight up card draw. It's a beautiful thing, right? Carrion. Now, I love the fact this is an instant. So, when one of your creatures is going to die, what have you, you can, I think in response, I'm going to kill it and make a bunch of 0/1s. Maggot tokens. Whew. Then we got creatures that come back. Like Ashen Ghoul, Blood-Soaked Champion, Tenacious D, Sanitarium Skeleton, Reassembling Skeleton. Because those you can sacrifice and then bring back later. To get value, essentially. Now, what we got here? Oh, I completely skipped the card draw, didn't I? Got the Blood Gift Demon here again. If it starts to hurting too much, you can get rid of it. Underworld Connections. It's more controlled. Yeah, the automatic that happens during your upkeep is, pretty good, but I like the fact that it's controlled. Mainly because I'm not a responsible Magic player, and I play things that kill me a lot of times. Such as Minions Murmurs. I'll tell you this. I've cast this card and lost more times than I've cast this card and win. Just because, we're Magic players. And first off, the color black. We're just going to go into some random philosophy here of mine. The color black, I believe, is the most flavorful color in the game. Just the way it's set up. Yeah, green's nature and white's noble and what all. But black, just by the sheer design, this is the brilliance of it. The sheer design of the color, the mechanics, the way it plays. Black encourages you to play more black. Because the raw power of the heavy black CMC cards, the double and triple and quadruple black. Look at Obliterator, not Obliterator, I think it is Obliterator I'm talking about, but even cards like Corrupt way back. Black rewards you for playing more black. thus sucking you into the color. Exactly black's flavor. I love it. It's spot on. And eventually you get to the point like this where you're like, well, I'll just play mono black. And then you can hear the the evil machinations of the black mana gods going, we've got another one. Anyway, got a little bit of Bone Harvest, just in case we need to get something back. I like that Bone Harvest is an instant. My favorite Bone Harvest cast I've ever done was in response to a Wheel of Fortune. I essentially got to control the hand that I was going to get, which was pretty sweet. Diabolic Tutor. Now, Tortured Existence is an amazing card. You would not believe how few decks this is played in. I didn't look, but coincidentally yesterday on Twitter, I was following Dean, and he had looked up, and this card is, I'm just going to say, criminally underplayed. Especially the fact of, well, you're just trading a creature for a creature. And since we have those creatures we can get back from the grave by themselves with no other card needed, hey, why not? Also, I'm playing, stuff like Scourge Familiar. I can ditch cards to get mana if I just see that I'm in need of a mana bump, which seems like a fairly decent segue into our non-basic lands. Sure, why not? Running a Reliquary Tower, because let's face it, if we're drawing all these cards, I want to keep them. Man, there it is, that black flavor seeping in, isn't it? Don't be tempted by the power. Baron Moore to cycle, Desert of the Glorified to cycle, Rogue's Passage, because even though he's got Menace, eventually at some point, somebody's going to have to block him or die. Memorial to Folly, getting, creature back. And, of course, the Cabal Stronghold, because let's face it, mana is life. Now, I don't know why I did the Planeswalker hate package here, but maybe. I say hate package. I think this is the only card. But as popular as Planeswalkers have become, yeah, this only gets rid of one. I know it's the same cost as the Elder Spell. But, I don't know. I like the Hex Mage. But I am running Spike Cannibal. Because let's face it, have you seen that dumb card from Modern Horizons, the doubling season for X permanents? Yeah. Anyway, I feel like, and in my particular meta, there are a lot of +1 counter decks. Hi, Jimmy. But when Spike Cannibal comes into play, move all 1/1 counters from all creatures onto it. And in this deck, because obviously, hopefully it's going to get out there and be big, but once it's out there, they kind of can breathe a little bit and they play their other stuff. Well, you're just going to sack it. Maybe Hell's Caretaker that Joker back into play next turn and just keep on keeping on. It's beautiful. Then, of course, I have some more like one-use creatures. They come in, they do their thing. I had no idea that Big Game Hunter, because this is an uncommon, I went crazy at the Planar Chaos pre-release. That was, it wasn't the last, but I think Future Sight was the last big time before all LGSs got them. But I left the Planar Chaos pre-release with a set. That's how hard I went. And I had a bunch of these, and I was typing the deck list into Architect, and man, I was not I don't remember, because I think that was yesterday, and I've slept since then. Not much, but I have. But man, it's a good card. Good card. And then, of course, Slum Reaper. That's the only one of those type cards I have in here. I know there's more and better, but let's face it, I kind of wanted just the one. Then, of course, at the end of the day, we've got to win a game. Now, just for attrition. Now, it seems like maybe I'm just completing decks that have Psychosis Crawler, but it seems like I am crutching hard on the crawler these days. I don't know, maybe, is it just me? Because I know I'm building Kefnet over there. Kefnet is actually spread out on the deck building table now, and I know there's a crawler in it. I mean, it's Kefnet, come on. I don't know. I like the card, it's fine, but Liliana's Elite, because I have a hunch we're going to have some creatures in the graveyard. Hence, Revenant, the original. Crowd of Cinders doesn't see a lot of play. The number of black permanents you control. And this entire deck is pretty much based around how many black permanents can we get out so that we can sack them to draw and whatnot. Which also kind of works well with Gary. Bloodcrazed Paladin. Man, this is this not perfect? If you play your Bontu and you got 2 mana left, and your Bontu eats a whole bunch of stuff, and you draw a bunch of cards, and you play your Bloodcrazed Paladin, and it comes into play as like, a 7/7 for 2, seems good. Also helps out your Drakestown Forgotten. Now, here again, your Spike's going to murder the Forgotten here if you play it backwards like that. But you know what? That may be the plan, sure. We're going to blow through removal pretty quick. Murder. Vonus Hunger. Yeah, Ascend. I figured, why not? I haven't. Seemed like there was something else with Ascend that I did. I don't remember. Price of Betrayal. Now, I want to talk about Price of Betrayal. This is going to take a minute. Y'all pull up a chair. For 1 mana sorcery, remove up to 5 counters from target artifact, creature, planeswalker, or opponent. First off, obviously, I have to say that this art is ball and it depicts a very pivotal moment there. That trailer, I'm sure, got us all. I mean, I get chills now just thinking about it. But anyway. Years ago, Mark Rosewater had said that he does not want there to be any way to remove poison counters. Once you're poisoned, you're poisoned. And the card Roots from Homelands was a mistake. Now, first off, the card Roots from Homelands is on the reserve list. And you know what? I had speculated. Speculate is the wrong word because our hobby gives that word a different definition. I had thought that about just starting to buy up as many Roots as I could because it's like well under $1, And I'm not spec guy or finance guy or whatever. And how many decks are up here? This is deck number 423. I've never used Roots yet. Yeah, I probably have as many as I need. But thing about it is I was like, well, the thing about the reserve list cards is, yeah, they're never going to reprint those again, but they can reprint better because a lot of those cards are just terrible. But I was like, Roots, because they're so passionate about not removing poison counters, Roots they're never going to print anything like it again. So I was kind of hem-hawing around, and ultimately I didn't because that's not where I want to put my money. I want to put my money in cards that I'm actually going to use and build decks and show y'all. That's what I'm more practical. But anyway. And then along comes Price of Betrayal. And everybody lost their mind. I thought y'all said y'all wasn't going to. Let's face it. Okay? This came out in a standard legal set, so it was pretty much designed for 1 versus 1. Are you really going to remove 5 poison counters from your opponent because it only hits an opponent? It doesn't hit you. You can't remove your own poison counters. Now, in Commander, that's what makes this card so amazing. Yes, you can do lots, 5 counters from artifacts, creatures, or walkers. There's a lot of walkers. That's just a 1 mana kill spell. A lot of creatures, that's a 1 mana kill spell. a lot of artifacts it just renders useless. But as a political bargaining chip, man, 5 counters, that gets somebody, that's number one, half dead with poison. You can leverage that for the rest of the game, probably. There is energy. There is experience. I mean, you can nerf somebody pretty hard, although it is sorcery speed. But anyway, that's my little rant on Price of Betrayal. I'm sorry, it took up a lot of time. It's Roots, it is not. It is way better. Anyway, capital punishment. Because you know what? Let's vote. I've got these cards. I might as well play them, right? Tragic Slip. Also, Dean of Iterations' his name on Twitter. And it's almost always, especially in this deck, it's a 1-mana removal. Extinguish All Hope. Finale of Eternity. I figure why not? Deathbringer Regent. Now, this is the perfect card for the deck because it's a board wipe. But once it's out there, 5/6 dragons pretty cool and all. But you know what? Sometimes that just gets outclassed. And it doesn't have as much meaning, you know. If you've got bigger, better, you can just sack it. You've already got your, mana worth out of it, presumably. Phyrexian Tribute. Check this out. Yeah, I know I crutch here a lot because in mono black, when we have no other way to blow up an artifact, we use the only card ever made that says destroy target artifact in black. So, and you get to sacrifice 2 creatures. Hey, and then Living Death because that's kind of what we're doing, and we're probably nobody else is doing it as hard as we are because we're going pretty hard with killing our own stuff. A spell book and a library of Lang. Anka Mishra. Yeah. Okay. The process of me building decks is like when we got as spoiler season, preview season was coming out, and each time a card would get confirmed, I would make the deck box, put the name on it, put the 100 sleeves in there, put it on the shelf, kind of like what I'm doing with Modern Horizons. And, like the monocolor ones, I was like, well, I know I'm going to need at least 20 basics. So I threw 20 basics in there, and I was like, well, it's black. I'm probably going to want like a Dark Ritual or something. Stuff like that. So I collectively, and I have all the current ones, it looks like from War of the Spark over there on the desk, I have 6 left. And I'll lay 7 because Kefnit's laid out. But anyway, evidently at some point in time in the deck building process, I threw an Anka Mishra in here and I forgot about it until I listed it earlier on Architect, and I went, what the heck am I doing with an Ankh of Mishra? Evidently, there was some kind of grandmaster scheme I had for this, but you know what? It's a fine card just by itself. It draws a little bit of hate, but everybody is going to play lands. It's just a fact. Number one, game's got to end. Game design theory says you want the game to end before people want the game to end. So that way everybody will want to play another game. And that's how I try to treat Commander, because I want the people I'm playing with to want to keep playing. But anyway, Anka Mishra. Yeah, it's going to speed the game up. It will probably draw an artifact removal spell. And you know what? If it gets to hurting too much, you just sack it to Bontu. Why not? I don't know. Evidently, I had some kind of master plan, but we've been through the whole deck now, except for the last 2 cards in my hand here, and I don't know. Maybe this is what we call a slot. Hecatone. Y'all know I can't resist an old, horrible Ice Age card, but we're talking mono black here. A deck that doesn't really mind sacrificing 4 creatures. More than likely, they're all tokens anyway, right? And why did my like Google Assistant thing pop up? That's weird. So, we don't mind sacking, but tapping a swamp to deal a damage, man, I think it probably actually is worded now to where it says any target. So I think you can probably smack down walkers with your swamps. You know, kill the swamps. And then our last card, I admit I don't really play this card enough. Anything, yeah, it does have that cumulative upkeep, you know, right up top, and that steers a lot of people away. Admittedly, it steers me away sometimes too, but this is a lockout. Presumably, you had 4 mana to play the enchantment, so you're going to have enough mana to keep it around a while. The life is negligible. We have enough, you know, a little chippy life gain not to matter, but it's a lockout for a lot of decks, especially, you know, 2, 3, 4 color decks. I have a distinct feeling that there's going to be a ton of, you know, 5 color decks here pretty soon. So, I mean, as long as you can keep it out, you can buy yourself a ton of turns. Because let's face it, it ain't hurting us. Well, that's what 26 minutes. I got long-winded on this one. I guess you can tell I just woke up and I'm full of energy, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I do appreciate y'all watching. Y'all let me know what you think. But I think right now, we're going to shuffle and cut.